Well, good morning. You guys doing okay? 10 o'clock service. Awesome. Well, my name is Ryan. I'm a part of our staff team here at the church. It is my distinct honor and privilege to be with you here this morning. Our lead pastor, Pastor Kurt, and Greg Varney, who leads our worship team, are finishing up their ministry trip in England. And Pastor tells me that it has been an incredible trip, lots of fruit. He's been enjoying it a lot, but he can't wait to be home very soon. Appreciate your prayers so much. So they'll be coming back this week. If you would just keep them in your prayers, I know they'll appreciate that so much. So we have been in a series for several weeks now called Better Together. Somebody say Better Together. And I thought last week Pastor Chris Frith did a fantastic job teaching about forgiveness. If you missed that message, definitely pick that up. You can get that on our website. And really, if you've missed any of the Better Together series, go check that out because it's really incredible. So we're talking about the fact that life really is better together, isn't it? Life is better together. Church is better together. I'm really glad all of you showed up today because this would be awkward. Just a bunch of chairs. It's better when we're all together in the house of God. Parties are better together, unless it's a pity party. Those are made for one. But parties are always great when we're all together, right? Family is better together. Family is better together than apart. The correct answer is yes. Yes. Has anybody moved like in the last 6 months or a year? You've moved. Moving is better together. Always better people together. But in the world that we live in today, I think it's so easy for us to get isolated, isn't it? There's so many tools. We got our smartphones, the internet. There's so many reasons for us to break off and just be by ourselves. Maybe we get hurt. Maybe we just think that it's easier to do it alone. But that's just not true. Has anybody ever watch like the Animal Planet, National Geographic kind of stuff? Has anybody ever check that out? I always love watching that stuff because I really like, this is going to sound bad, I like watching like lions hunt. It's a lot of fun. I know, sad. It's sad. It's just nature. It's the way God intended it to be. And so, if you watch carefully, when a lion or really any animal is on the hunt, when he's looking for that herd of zebra, he's wanting to do one thing. He's wanting to isolate a zebra off of the herd, isn't he? That's what the lion is always wanting to do. That's what any predator is wanting to do to its prey. That's what the enemy wants to do in our lives. Because he knows if he can get you separated, he can get you isolated away from your herd, your family, your tribe, you're much more likely to fall down, and he wins. Which is why we're so passionate around here about doing life together. We're passionate about that. We're passionate about being in relationship with each other, worshiping together. We got a mega worship coming up the last Wednesday of this month. We come together, hour and a half, worshiping, praying. It's an incredible thing. It's always better when you're here, when we're together. We don't just want a warm body in the room. It's actually better when you show up, isn't it? That's why we pray together around here. It's why we worship together. It's why we serve together. It's why we get in small groups, rock groups together, because it is better. It's one of our core values of our church, actually. We want to cultivate meaningful relationships around here because we know that relationships are so important. Listen to this. God has uniquely and purposefully designed you and me for relationships. You should be writing that down if you're taking notes. God has purposefully, uniquely designed you and me for relationships. In Matthew 22, it talks about this. There's a story, and they come up to Jesus. There's a man who comes up to Jesus, and he's asking him, he says, "Teacher, what is the greatest commandment?" There's so many commandments to keep up with. What is the greatest commandment? And I like Jesus' response, because sometimes Jesus, takes those situations. Somebody asks him a question, and he's like, "Well, there was a farmer." Or Jesus will ask another question on top of that, but that's not what he does in this situation. Notice the question gets asked, and Jesus gives a straight-up answer. I like that. I like when Jesus gives me a straight-up answer, don't you? And he says, okay, this is it. You're to love the Lord your God with all of your heart, your soul, and your mind. And then the second one is just like that. You're going to love your neighbor just like you love yourself. That those two things encompass everything. That everything in the Bible is all about just those two things. Love God, love people. Say that. Love God, love people. It's just two things. Easy, right? Check, check, done. We're all doing that, aren't we? Aren't we? It's tough. It's tough. Why? So why is it difficult to do just those two things? Jesus made it so clear. But it's hard. It's hard to do those things. And that's what I want to talk about today. It's actually something I'm somewhat familiar with, have a little bit of expertise on. But the reason that we have difficulty doing what Jesus said and loving God and loving people is that we're already truly, madly, deeply in love with someone else. It's ourselves. We're in love with ourselves. Y'all are looking at me like I'm crazy. We are selfish people. It's a feel-good message today is what is going to happen this morning. Feeling good yet? Don't worry. I'm teaching this to myself as much as I am to anybody else this morning. But what we're talking about today is a really big deal. This is a big deal because it's foundational. For us to understand this, it is foundational to understanding love. It's foundational. Because if we are understanding love in the way that Jesus is teaching about, that we can understand how to do just the things that he's asked us to do. We don't struggle with what Jesus said because we hate. I don't know a ton of people that really struggle with a lot of hate. They just hate everybody, hate everything. The truth is, we struggle with what Jesus said because we're selfish. We're selfish. Write this down. The greatest enemy of love is not hate, it's selfishness. It's selfishness. The greatest enemy of love is not hate, it's selfishness. And if love, catch this, if love is foundational and essential for us to understand relationships and for us to be in relationship, if it's essential for us to get that, just like we've been learning over the last few weeks, then selfishness is the greatest enemy to our relationships. Did you catch that? So today, I want to introduce us, or reintroduce, maybe you've never said it before, to a phrase that I think could revolutionize your entire life. If we make this not just a phrase, if we actually adopt this into who we are and everywhere we go, and learn how to apply this, it could change every single thing about your life. The phrase is this: it's not about me. It's not about me. Say that. It's not about me. All right, turn to your neighbor and say, it's not about you. Yeah, see, that's a lot easier, isn't it? That's right, it's not about you. You better listen up. Saying it's not about me it kind of feels funny, doesn't it? You're like, it's not about me, but I kind of think it is, but I'll say that because you're telling me to, and I just do what people tell me to do sometimes. And so our whole lives, we're actually told that. That's why it feels funny. It feels kind of funny to say that if you're not used to saying that on a regular basis. It feels funny. The whole world has told you your whole life. It's all about you. It's all about me. I'm an only child, and you better believe it is all about me. Still trying to recover out of that. And we buy into that system so naturally, right? Everywhere we turn, it's about my life. It's about my dreams, my goals, my career, my ambition. Isn't it? You know, as a kid, I remember this. I had a hard time sharing. And as some only children and, everyone tends to deal with, and I never wanted to share. And my parents knew this about me. So I remember this vividly at so many dinners. We'd be sitting there, and they'd give me food, and then they would pretend like they wanted to take my food. And as a child, I did not understand this. They were like, "Do you want to give your food to mommy?" And I was like, "No. That makes no sense. You just gave it to me. Make some more. You obviously are capable. We have a system here. I have my food. You have your food. Why it's sitting right in front of you." I did not understand. It never worked, by the way. There was never a moment ever in my childhood where my parents wanted to have my food and have me share my food where I was like, "Yes, mother, I would love to share with you." Every time. I was like 18. I was like, "No. No. Mine." And some people never grow out of that, do we? Everything is always mine. It's mine. It's hard. It's hard not to be selfish in today's culture, isn't it? Everything all around us. We live in a culture of comfort and convenience. Everything is built around, are you comfortable? Is this convenient for you and your schedule? It's all built around that. Now, we live in the age of Facebook, don't we? What's on your mind? I will tell you exactly what's on my mind. Let me produce the word vomit of the day. A page completely dedicated to all things about me? I'm in heaven. Everywhere, come on, admit it. When you take pictures on your phone, they're processed through your personal social media filter, aren't they? You look at that picture, you're like, is that Facebook worthy? Should I tweet that? Yeah, tweet that. Huh? Instagram that, hashtag duckface. Everything is processed. I'm just as guilty, though. I can't throw too many stones. I have a problem taking pictures of my food. I am cataloging something amazing for the future. I don't know what it is, but Teresa and I are going to sit around and look at all the meals we've ever had and just go crazy. But we live in the age of the selfie, don't we? The selfie, you know what I'm talking about? Look good. In fact, recently, you guys might have caught this at the Oscars, the most retweeted picture of all time, selfies. And they're everywhere, aren't they? They're everywhere. By the way, if you do this, if you are a perpetual selfie kind of person, just stop that. We know what you look like. We know exactly what this looks like. In fact, 2013 Oxford Dictionary named selfie the word of the year. Word of the year. Proud to be an American. where selfie actually beat out twerking, just barely, last year. There's always next year, don't worry. But this is the age that we live in. I mean, just if you don't feel like you're selfish, how about this? Pictures in general, if there is a group photo of you and you know you're in it, what's the very first thing you do? You look for yourself, right? Ladies, you know I'm talking to you too, because you look for yourself, and if you don't look good, that picture is garbage. It doesn't matter if you are like with the most famous person on the planet, if it is like the only time the stars align and you got it in that picture, if you look bad, it's going in the trash. And you're willing to like strangle somebody to make them delete it off their phone, aren't you? You're after them. You're going to delete that. I mean, we are in the age of extreme customer satisfaction. Have you ever seen this guy at Starbucks? Excuse me, I actually ordered a double grande iced skinny hazelnut macchiato with 2 half pumps of sugar-free syrup and 1 extra shot of aged goat milk and light ice. Does this look like light ice to you? I'm going to need to speak with your manager. You're like, oh God, you're actually that guy at Starbucks, aren't you, Ryan? No. Kicked my aged goat's milk habit a long time ago. But you see that, right? You see that all around, and it is built into our culture so deep, where we are willing to lose our minds and ask for the manager when our food order or drink order isn't right. We're ready to get in fights with a stranger in traffic. We're ready to take somebody out because they took our seat at church. Okay, not this service, but second service, it's bad. Selfishness everywhere. But why do we act like this? Why do we act like this? Because we do, don't we? Yes, we do. We act like this because it is all about me. It's all about me. And this isn't good. This isn't good. And it's not going to get any better. So what do we do? What do we do about this? Do we just tell ourselves, hey, come on, don't be selfish, 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 don't be selfish? That's not going to work. So what happens? Just thinking about yourself again. So I did what I only know to do, and I looked at the Bible, and I looked at the only person in all of human history that never struggled with selfishness, and that was Jesus. So I wanted to look at that. I wanted to look, why did Jesus come? Why did he come here, and what did he do? And so I want to take a look at this verse. And Jesus, check this, because Jesus says something radically profound and incredible in this next verse here. So check this out. Mark 10, verses 44 and 45. He's talking to his disciples here after they were being selfish. And he says, and whoever wants to be first among you must be the slave of everyone else. For even the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve others, to give his life as a ransom for many. Did you catch that? Did you catch the radically profound part of that? I don't know. I think we've grown just a little bit numb to the most incredible paradox in human history. And that is this: Jesus came to serve. He came to serve. And you're like, oh, well, of course. I mean, of course he did. He's Jesus. He's Jesus. He's sweet little baby Jesus. Of course he came to serve. No. This is Jesus. He is King of all kings. He is Lord of all lords. He is ruler and creator of the entire universe. He knows all. He sees all. This is Jesus who came to serve. That doesn't make sense. I remember this comedian put it this way. I remember seeing his show, and I thought it was hilarious. He talks about how we've just grown so accustomed in our society to flying in airplanes. We've grown so numb to it. It's just normal. We get very entitled and actually jaded about the flying experience. And I love his perspective. He's like, if you're ever in an airplane, ever flying, we should all be like this. Ah! We're flying! This is amazing! We're flying! And that's the way we should be when we look at this. It isn't just Jesus who came to serve. This is Jesus who came to serve. He could have done anything, but he came to serve. It should be blowing our minds every time we look at this. It doesn't make sense. So Jesus, he actually teaches us in this way how to break selfishness off of our lives. And this is really important, so catch this. The antidote for selfishness is serving. The antidote for selfishness is serving. It's not Pilates. It's not going vegan. It's not becoming a Republican. It's not watching more Fox News. It's not watching Sesame Street. It is serving. That is the antidote to our selfishness. And throughout his ministry, throughout his entire ministry, Jesus modeled this for us. He taught this, especially to his disciples, over and over and over again. Let's read a couple verses here. Let's check this out. In John 13, he said this, verses 12 through 14. He's talking to his disciples here, and he says, after washing their feet, he put on his robe again and sat down, and he asked, do you understand what I was doing? You call me teacher and Lord, and you're right, because that is what I am. And since I, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you ought to wash each other's feet. And then again in Mark 9, verses 33 and 30 through 35, again he's talking to his disciples. After they had arrived at Capernaum and settled in a house, Jesus asked his disciples, what were you discussing out on the road? But they didn't answer because they had been arguing about which of them was the greatest. He sat down, called the 12 disciples over to him, and he said, whoever wants to be first must take last place and be servant of everyone else. Jesus was telling them, hey, it's not about you. It's not about you. And we're just like the disciples, aren't we? Where we're right next to Jesus. We're right close to Jesus, and yet over and over, we spend a lot of our time asking him how we can get ahead. Asking him how we can push forward. Asking him how we can be first. So just like the disciples, we need to be constantly reminded. Repetition is our friend. They needed repetition. I think Jesus modeled this in so many other areas of his life as well. When Jesus was teaching us how to pray, he modeled being a servant. He said, pray like this. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed is your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done. Not my kingdom come, not my will be done, but yours. So he's teaching us, even when we're praying, our posture is to be a servant. Our posture is to serve. When Jesus was nearing the end of his life and he was in the Garden of Gethsemane, He's facing this horrible, brutal, tortured criminal's death, and he's praying. And even while he's praying, Jesus is teaching us here in a moment even when things are at their worst, our posture is to be like a servant. Our posture is to serve. God, if it's possible to take this away, take it away, but I don't want what I want. I want what you want. I want what you want. And that was Jesus' posture throughout his ministry. And, I think about all the different areas of our lives, and I think about what if we could take this attitude of serving? What if we could take this posture of it's not about me and implement this in the different areas of our lives? What if we could do that? What would the different areas of our lives look like if we implemented that? What would it look like in your family if you implemented this? If you went into your marriage and you just took the posture of, you know what? It's not about me. It is not about me. And you asked yourself, how can I serve my spouse today? How can I serve my spouse today? One thing I do understand very much about being married is that marriage doesn't fix everything. Does it? Any married people in the house, you know what I'm talking about? It just doesn't fix everything. That would be awesome if it did, but it just doesn't. When there's brokenness before you get married, if that doesn't get healed, it's actually amplified in your marriage. Your marriage amplifies everything, right? And so, and quick tip here, if you are single and you're looking to get married, one of the best pieces of advice I can give, if you'll allow me, is to look for somebody who's serving. Be on the lookout for someone who serves. Be on the lookout for somebody who's not all about themselves. It's actually one of the reasons why I married Therese, is that she's someone who serves, who's always looking to serve other people. And I love that. I don't know why she married me, but too late now. No take-backs. I'm keeping it. No take-backs. So what would happen if you did that in your marriage? What would happen if you walked in to every situation where you were getting frustrated and you just said, you know what? It's not about me. If you walked into that situation and you weren't consumed by putting together your list or keeping tabs on all the things that they haven't been doing right, all the ways that they've hurt you or disappointed you, if you just stopped keeping tabs of all that and you just said, you know what, how can I serve my spouse today? What would happen if you did that? What would happen to families all across our country if spouses got into this serving challenge with each other, that they're just constantly trying to outserve the other one? What would happen with that? It would look like health. It would look like wholeness. It would look like heaven, I think, if families did that. What about another area? What about your finances? Ooh. What if you walked into looking at your finances with a totally different lens? And instead of thinking about what you don't have, you just process, you know what? It's not about me. I do have this, and I have this, and I'm grateful for this. If you processed everything about your finances with a filter that it just wasn't about you, that your resources were actually there to serve somebody else. What about if you just stopped worrying about everything you don't have, and then you focus on the fact that God has given you everything you need or will ever need in terms of resources? What would happen with that? What would happen? What would it look like in your world if you took the perspective that everything you were given, all of it, its sole purpose was blessing? Its sole purpose was blessing other people? What would happen in your finances? I'll tell you what I think would happen. I think it would look like prosperity. I think it would look like Proverbs 11:25, which says this: the generous will prosper, those who refresh others will themselves be refreshed. Generous people get refreshed. What would that look like in your finances? You just said it wasn't about me. It's not about me. What would it look like? Oh, man, this is good. What would it look like at work? What would it look like in your workplace? If you just walked in there, you said, hey, it is not about me. This place is not about me. What would it look like if you stopped worrying about what you feel like you deserve? If you stopped worrying about people who've been promoted ahead of you? If you stopped worrying about how unfair different things are? Am I talking to anybody today? What if you stopped going into your workplace with that angle and you just said, you know what? I'm going to serve somebody today. I'm going to serve somebody today. What if you thought, oh, this is a tougher one. What if you thought about your boss? Think about your boss right now. I'm looking at your faces. What if you thought about your boss and you stopped thinking about how they're unfair to you, or you stopped worrying, or you stopped processing if your boss is worth your respect, and you just honored him. You honored her. You said, it's not about me. How can I serve my boss today? How can I make my boss look good? Ooh, it doesn't feel quite right sometimes, does it? I'll tell you this. I've been in the workforce for about 12 years out of college, and I will say this. All of the times when I made my job all about me, I lost. Always losing, always frustrated, never satisfied, always unhappy. But the times where I saw favor and grace and blessing and promotion come into my life was when I took a perspective of, what does my boss need? What do I need to do for them today? What do I need to do to help this coworker? How can I be the most helpful person at my workplace today? How can I become known for the guy who wants to help everybody out? Those are the moments when I saw blessing and promotion come my way, and I think that's what would happen in your life as well. You guys good with this? You okay? And then what would happen if you took this perspective into your relationship with God? You said, God, it's not about me. It's all about you. What would it look like? What would it look like if you took all of your energies into finding out what God is into instead of trying to get him to do something for you? What if you took the perspective of your time with God is actually built out of his schedule, not your schedule? What if you just processed your relationship with God in a way where you're focusing on everything that he has done for you instead of bargaining for a miracle every time you talk? What would happen to your relationship with God? What would happen in that place where you just said, God, it isn't about me? Say, it's not about me. It's not about me. I have some homework for us this week, if that's okay. A little bit of homework. I'd love for us to do this. I'd love for you to look at one of those areas that I just talked about. Your family, your marriage, your finances, your workplace, your relationship with God. This is our challenge for this week. I want you to pick one of those. Don't do all of them. It's too much. Just pick one, and you probably know which one. You're thinking about it right now. I want you to pick that one, and this week, not next week, this week, like tomorrow, you just start working on implementing serving in that area. You just take that area and you go, how many times can I think about it's not about me? In every situation in your work, every situation in your family life, with your finances, your relationship with God, whatever it is for you, that you just took this week and you just started and said, you know what? It is not about me. Can we do that? You guys up for that? And let us know. Talk to us and tell us what happens in your world. Hit us up on Facebook. Come back next week, whatever it is. Just let us know how that happens. Because I'm telling you this. If you are able to start to harness this idea that it is not all about you, great things start to open up in your life. You start to make room for the other things in your world. You start to make room for God to work in an incredible way in your life. To do that, though, to actually be able to say it's not about me, you're going to need some help. You're going to need the help of Jesus. You're going to need Jesus' help in this, and who did the absolute most selfless thing in the history of the world. He gave us his life. He traded his life for us. And I'll close out with this verse here. It's 2 Corinthians 5, verse 15. It says this: He died for everyone, so that those who receive his new life will no longer live for themselves. Instead, they will live for Christ, who died and was raised for them. No longer live for themselves, they'll live for Christ. Because see, the only way you get to a spot where you can say, it's not about me, is actually when you can start saying, it's all about him. It's all about Jesus. It's all about Jesus. Can I pray with you this morning? Let's bow our heads, close our eyes. I know some of us are wrestling with this morning. You're hearing me talk about this, and some of it's stinging, and some of it's ringing true, and I just want to invite you into an opportunity in just a moment where if anything this morning is pulling at your heart, is pulling at what you know to be true, I want to give you an opportunity to actually move in that direction, to start truly saying it's not about me. It's about you, Jesus. So if you're in this room today and you've never given your life to Jesus, you've never said yes to him, you've never been in a place where you can say, it's all about you, Jesus. Or maybe you're in a spot where you've drifted back. It used to be all about Jesus, but it's not about him anymore. It's all about you. Or maybe you're just not sure. You don't know. But you want to know. You want to be sure. You want to be positive. If that's anybody in this room today and you want to take one step closer to that, I just want to pray with you. Will you raise your hand right now and let me see that? I just want to pray with you today, this morning. Thank you. I see that hand. Thank you. I see that hand. Thank you. Thank you. Awesome. I see that hand. Hands going up all over the room. This is your moment. This is your time. You can say, Jesus, it's not about me. It is all about you. Anybody else this morning? I want to pray with you today. Thank you. I see that hand. Beautiful. Well, let's all pray this together out loud, especially those of us who raised our hands this morning. Say this: Lord Jesus, I'm coming to you today. I know I've sinned. I know I've messed up, but I come to your cross where you paid the price for all my sins. Today, I'm coming to you. Help me, Jesus. Make it all about you and not about me. Thank you, Jesus. Help me become the person you've created me to be. Amen. Amen.